this sound of silence. When you grow calm, you can experience the sound of silence in the mind. You hear it as a kind of high-frequency sound, a ringing sound that's always there but is normally never noticed. When you now begin to hear that sound of silence, it's a sign of emptiness, of the silence of the mind. It's something you can always turn to. As you concentrate on it and turn to it, it can make you quite peaceful, blissful. Meditating on that, you have a way of letting the conditions of the mind cease, without suppressing them with another condition. Otherwise, you just end up putting one condition over another. This process is what is meant by making karma. For example, if you're feeling angry and you start thinking of something else to get away from the anger, that's just putting one condition on top of another. You don't like what's going on over here, so you look over there, you just run away. But if you have a way of turning from conditioned phenomena to the unconditioned, no kind of karma is being made, and the conditioned habits can fade away and cease. It's like a safety hatch in the mind, the way out, so your karmic formations, sankhara, have an exit, a way of flowing away instead of recreating themselves. One problem with meditation is that many people find it boring. People become bored with emptiness. They want to fill up emptiness with something. So recognize that even when the mind is quite empty, the desires and habits are still there, and they will come and want to do something interesting. You have to be patient, willing to turn away from boredom and from the desire to do something interesting, and be content with the emptiness of the sound of silence. And you have to be quite determined in turning towards it. But when you begin to listen and understand the mind better, the emptiness of the sound of silence is a very realizable possibility for all of us. After many years of practice, gross karmic formations fade away, and the more subtle ones also start to fade. The mind becomes increasingly emptier and clearer, but it takes a lot of patience, endurance, and willingness to keep practicing under all conditions, and to let go even of one's most treasured little habits. One can believe that the sound of silence is something, or that it's an attainment. But it's not a matter of having attained anything, but of wisely reflecting on what you experience. The way to reflect is that anything that comes goes, and the practice is one of knowing things as they are. No kind of identity is involved. There's nothing to attach to. Some people who hear that sound want to know, is that stream entry? Or do we have a soul? We're so attached to concepts. All we can know is that we want to know something. We want to have a label for ourselves. If there's a doubt about something, doubt arises, and then there's desire for something. But the practice is one of letting go. We keep with what is, recognizing conditions as conditions, and the unconditioned as the unconditioned. It's as simple as that. Even religious aspiration is seen as a condition. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't aspire, but just that you should recognize aspiration in itself as being limited. And emptiness is not self either. Attachment to the idea of emptiness is also attachment. Let go of that. The practice then becomes one of turning away from conditioned phenomena, not creating anything more around existing conditions. So whatever arises in your consciousness, anger, greed, whatever, you recognize it's there, but you make nothing out of it. You can turn to the emptiness of the mind, to the sound of silence. This gives conditions like anger a way to cessation. You let them go away. We have memories of what we've done in the past, They come up in consciousness when the conditions are there for them to come. That's the resultant karma of having done something in the past, having acted out of ignorance and done things out of greed, hatred, and delusion, and so forth. When that karma ripens in the present, the impulses of greed, hatred, and delusion still come up in the mind, the resultant karma. Whenever we act on them ignorantly, when we aren't mindful, we create more karma. We can create karma in two ways, by following it or trying to get rid of it. When we stop doing this, the cycles of karma have an opportunity to cease. The resultant karma that has arisen has a way out, an escape hatch to cessation.